Hi folks, Marty here, and I'm glad you can join me today for this video lesson. Today we're going to take a look at how flowers can fit into the landscape. Not everybody is into flowers. Some people might be just into landscape, and some people may not be into landscape but into flowers. So what I'm trying to do is just combine both interests into one, just to show how both different areas are all relevant. This is an old picture that I'd found that I'd painted in a class demo, must be about 20 years ago. And that was the lesson. It was just showing how you can put in some areas of interest in the foreground. So what we're going to do over the next few weeks is just take a look at some flowers and how to work those into your landscape, and we'll build up to a painting like this. And what we might do is do two versions of this. We might do this one and then have a more autumnal, more autumny scene. Okay, so this is the area we're going to focus in on today, and this is another old painting that I'd come across, and it was basically just showing how you could do something very quick and simple with just a few strokes. This area was masked off with latex liquid, and then all my paints were just dropped in and moved around, and then that was dried off, and then I'd removed the liquid latex and then just touched up here and there. Okay, so that was just a wee quick, I think it might have been like a 5-10 minute demo. Okay, but basically I'm showing you that just to show that this is what goes into a foreground of a landscape. So if you know how to do that, then you can make the foregrounds of your landscape paintings look a bit more interesting. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just remove this, and we're just going to show you how to go about doing that. Okay, so some of the brushes that I'll be using today, I've got a 16, I've got a 12, and then a couple of riggers and a couple of smaller size ones. Okay, so basically you can use anything, but let's just give you a wee bit of an idea of what I'll be using. Okay, so what I want to do is get a pencil, and I want to kind of roughly sketch out some ideas of where I want my daisies or marigolds or something along that line to be. I'm just kind of sketching them out very quickly. And then a few wee ones in the distance there. Okay, so that's them sketched in. So there's a couple of things you can do here. One is you can try and do all your painting around and preserve the whites of the petals, or you can use liquid fluid or masking fluid just to protect and preserve those areas. Okay, here's my masking fluid. I don't tend to use this an awful lot, but it is handy for a little study like this. So when you get your masking fluid, it can come in different colors. You You can also get it in blue, which makes it a lot easier to see. But the trick to masking fluid is to protect your brushes. If I was just to dip this brush straight into that masking fluid, when it starts to rubberize and set, it gets into the hairs and just it's really hard to get out and can ruin your brush. What I would recommend is get the brush and dip it into water before you start, and then paint with it like that. So you're just painting between the lines. You don't want to put too much of it on, or it'll take ages to dry. So I would suggest working pretty fast with this stuff, because it'll start to dry on you, start to dry on your brush and becomes hard to work with. It doesn't have to be completely exact, just to give you something to work with. And then I'll do a few wee random dots here and there. This always looks good when you have painted and then you rub this all off at the end. Okay, I think that'll do. And then get your brush into that water and just get off the excess masking fluid. I'm going to use my hairdryer just to speed the process up here. So that's that dried off. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start to mix up a few colours. What we want to do is have like a yellowy kind of background here, and then we're going to merge and blend some of these colours. It's going to be done in a few different layers, all according to how the paper is drying out or the paint is drying out, and then we'll put the paint in thicker layers. Okay, so I got a big brush for this one, so you can either use the biggest round brush you have, or if you have a hake, that would work really well. I find these round heads are just better for mixing up the paint though. So you want this to be, I'm going to use some of my, I have some yellow off to the side here. And then I'm going to maybe warm that up a little. Put a bit of orange in there. So you want these colours to be quite strong. If you want to wet your paper, that can help as well. So just give it a light spray here. It helps to get the whole thing going. So what you're kind of trying to do is mimic the sun in the sky and how that would, if it was a sunny day. So while that's still wet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit of blue into that, a bit of cobalt, and I want to keep it light up here. Let me put a wee bit of turquoise in there, see how that does. And I want this to look a bit kind of random, so I'm just kind of throwing the paint on here. And as I go down to the bottom, I'm just going to go in with a wee bit more blue into that mix just to give it a stronger green. And then stronger again. This time I put a wee bit of yellow ochre in here. And I'm doing it in kind of this kind of stroke here. Just to make it look like it could be kind of leaves and stuff. Okay, and then a bit stronger again. So I'm just very random strokes. I'm just kind of, don't be too fussy with it. Okay, so while that's drying a little, it allows me to mix up another colour here. When I say another colour, I mean a stronger colour. And then I'm going to switch to my rigger. Okay, so I'm going to go a lot darker this time. It's going to be quite a dark green, so there's plenty of blue in there. And what I might do is try a little bit of that burnt sienna colour. If you remember, that's your kind of, it's almost like a reddy brown. It'll give me a nice strong colour there. Nice dark olive green. Okay, and just try that here and there. So don't forget, you want thickness of paint here. No, not too runny. Nice creamy. And what you want to do is just kind of some nice rough strokes. See the way that's starting to look like it could be leaves and other things going on there. Maybe a couple of wee spotters here and there. Timing is everything in this. So you want to let that kind of start to dry a bit. Just be a bit careful with the hairdryer. You don't want to go in here right away with the hairdryer because it stops the blending process, and that's something you really want here. So the way that looks like it's almost in the distance, there's a bit of diffusion going on. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll put the hairdryer on for a little bit. Okay, so that's that. Dried a little bit. And what I'm going to do is, while it's still wet, I'm just going to grab, this is a bit of plastic here, and I'm going to just do a couple of wee strokes here and there, not too many. This helps to give the impression that there's something, different blades of grass and plants and so on there. So with my strong mix of colour, what I'm going to do now is just drag in a few more blades of grass and so on. So it's all about how you hold the brush and just creating wee flicks like that. maybe try a slightly bigger brush. Okay, and then use my little tool again here. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to dry this off now, and then we're going to get to work on the flowers themselves. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take off the latex or masking fluid, and you got to be careful with this. Depending on what kind of paper you have and how thick the masking fluid is, it can actually end up ripping your paper. So what you need to do is just gently with your finger sideways, just kind of try and rub it into the center of the object that you've masked off. Make sure your finger's clean, because if it's not, it can end up dirtying the area that you've been trying to protect. So that's the whites of my flowers preserved. So what I can do now is I can go ahead and paint those. I'm going to do the centers a nice orangey colour, and then what I'll do with the white petals, I'm going to go into them with maybe a cobalt blue, just to add a wee bit of shade. So for this, a small brush, something like the size of the one you were using for the masking fluid. If you do end up getting masking fluid stuck in the brush, some washing up liquid is always handy for getting it out. So now that I'm moving on to a lighter colour, I'm going to clean my palette, because I want my colours to be nice and pure, not muddied. So we're having a separate little palette or dish is handy, because you wouldn't have to keep on cleaning these out. Right, so I'm just going to show you the little palette that I have off to the side here that I'm using. Obviously, because I've made this palette, there was only so many wells in it, and I had to be very fussy about what colours I was picking. So having this extra little small palette, it's handy enough, and I keep that just beside my big palette. So what I'm going to do is go into that orangey colour and then give that a wee try. I want this to be nice and vibrant, maybe a bit more. Maybe add a wee touch of alizarin crimson to it. Obviously, if you have a good strong orange colour, that would probably do the job. Okay, it's starting to take shape now. So what I'm going to do is just touch the top of those. It's where the sun would hit them. It'd be just a wee bit lighter. Okay, I think that'll do there. I will now get a little bit more red this time, as I want it to be a bit more just towards the bottoms here. Just a wee touch, and let that bleed in there. Just help it to look like there's a bit of shadow on it. It's always good to work fast, because if that's still damp, it'll blend nicely. Okay, I think I will dry that off now. Okay, so what we want to do now is want to get some blue. We're going to make up a sort of like a bit of a shadowy colour. It's a bit too strong there. So we'll take that cobalt and maybe a wee bit of alizarin. You don't want this to be too strong. That's where the old scrap comes in. You can just test some of this out. We just water it down a little bit. A bit more blue in there. Okay, I think that will work. Okay, so what you want to do is drop a wee bit of shadow here and there. Obviously I'm doing this out of my head, but if you actually had some pictures of these flowers, it'd be a lot easier. Oops, I think that's working. So what I want to do now is I want to make up a nice green colour. It's going to have to be stronger, and it's for the stems of those flowers. So I'll go into my blue and then maybe pull some of that orangey yellow colour into it. And then switch brush, go back to my rigger. Okay, and then okay, if you can imagine the sun hitting those stems there, so you want it to look like it's kind of blowing out the colour. Put a wee bit more ultramarine into that. Maybe put a few little bits and pieces like this in. And if it's a bit too dark, just get the old tissue, just get a wee top like that. Just to tone it down. Okay, so this colours, I'm getting quite strong now with the colour. So I want it to just to bring in a few more bits and pieces in this foreground. So it's just remembering it's all in the way you hold the brush. Just drag that up. So the darker you get into that foreground, it just helps the other blades of grass just recede a bit. Almost pushes it back, gives a sense of distance. So if that was in the foreground of one of your wee landscape pictures, that would just sit quite nicely there. So it's just giving the impression of detail. Okay, I will just dry that off now. At this stage, what I'll do is I'll just get my wee brush, just dip it into some of that strong colour there, and then just put in a few wee birds. See those little paint drops there? Just use them for the basis of your birds. Okay, don't go overboard with it, just keep them nice and simple. At this stage, what you can do is get a bit of kitchen paper, and if you wanted to just cover that, and what you can do is just get some strong paint, and then just, you know, just do a few little spotters here and there just for texture. This can get quite messy, so this helps to add a wee bit of interest to the painting. So what you can do at this point is get your gouache and a wee brush. If you wanted to go in and then just some of those little flowers there that maybe the masking fluid from the first time didn't cover, you can now go in there and just fix them up a bit. Just keep that nice and thick. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just get some of my orangey colours. Just give it a wee touch here and there. Okay, I think that's now. So what I'm going to do is just give it a quick signature here. Okay, so I will now take the tip off. Always pull your tape out the way so as you don't end up tearing your paper. And there you have it, a very simple little painting, just showing you how to use masking fluid and just give it the impression that there's a lot of detail in the foreground. And it's very simple really. It's just doing it in those different layers, letting the paint dry a little bit and then building it up to make it look like there's something going on in the background there. So if you were to do that in your foregrounds of your landscapes, it'll just be a nice detailed section in the foreground. So have a wee go at that, and until next week, keep painting, and I'll see you soon.